They say a woman's place is in the home, and I suppose as long as she's in the home, she might as well be in the kitchen.
Oh.
Who's responsible for breaking the glass ceiling? Is it broken by women pushing up on it, or should it be broken by men refusing to stand on it?
There are jobs usually that require some sort of physical labor that, generally speaking, the perception among both people in whatever industry you're in are probably generally assumed to be male jobs, and then there are female jobs that have a lot to do with like people and feeling.
And so even though they're very important jobs, they get paid significantly less than a lot of male-dominated jobs.
How do we even make a decision about who gets in, who gets hired at the ground floor, right? Which kind of women get which kind of jobs?
I think being a woman practicing employment law actually is a little bit less unusual. I think there's something about this kind of human interaction, people aspect that draws more women than men.
When you think of a kindergarten teacher or you think of a first grade teacher, you think of women. Secondary education, women are often the face.
As a kid, just growing up, seeing the unfairness that I saw in the world that was towards girls, just really heightened my awareness of the small slights that I saw in the world. Today we call them microaggressions.
Women of all races and all classes have, one, always worked, and two, always struggled.
So I always had this inherent idea of what I was supposed to do as a girl and what I really wanted to do in my life, and the barriers as well as the social norms that would keep trying to push me into the girl box.
Teachers across the board tend to steer young women away from things like sciences and math and sort of more complicated art projects, right? Because there's an inherent sexism about what people think girls are capable of doing in school.
And then the final piece of discrimination that I see is really more society and culture in our country and what we value.
We live in a sexist society. We live in a society that does not value female-identified people or people who are not perceived of as straight, heterosexual men.
Particularly when I was a younger woman, when I was first starting my career, definitely when I would walk into a courtroom, I would notice that most of the other people in there, whether it was the judge or the bailiff or the clerks or all the other attorneys, they were primarily older men.
So for example, teachers who are so important and home health care workers are undervalued.
What ends up happening is that there's an underrepresentation of women in certain schools of education, right? So like science, technology, and math, grossly underrepresent the women that are interested in those fields. Even the women who made great strides in those fields, we have to work really hard to learn about them.
Wages has disproportionately affected women.
It should be the same. That's what the law states and has stated for decades now.
I think one of the main factors is women who don't stand up for themselves. And they don't negotiate salary, they don't negotiate pay raises, so they're able to be paid less.
There's this assumption that it's like women's responsibility to do more. Like, how much more are we supposed to do?
often women are not socialized to be as ambitious and are not as socialized to ask for things that they want.
Several years ago, I had the opportunity to hire a very bright, young female associate. I offered her a salary, starting salary, toward the lower end of the range that I could offer. I was actually disappointed when I extended the offer and she said, "I'll take it," without any hesitation, without any negotiation.
When you're not getting opportunities you want, you're not getting assigned to projects you want, I think women unfortunately may be reluctant to do something about that.
Whose responsibility is that kind of justice in the workplace?
I think a lot of the data shows that things like the anti-discrimination laws, it was a good 20 years before there was a real kind of uptick in lawsuits of people trying to sue under those laws.
If we want to focus on equal pay, is we want to get as many people together in one place, all bringing awareness to equal pay.
It takes a while from when a new law is passed until the public and people who have been victimized and could seek protection under the law actually take action and become aware of it enough to do it.
A woman would have to work the entire year prior and January through April in order to come even with what a man made last year.
Honestly, like, how much more are we supposed to do? And then it does make you wonder, like, what is the engine of the change? There are times when I want to see the change come from men or from people in positions of power.
So traditional gender roles not only harm women's ability to be successful in the workplace, they harm all people across the spectrum of gender.
Go for the gold, everything that you can do, whatever field you choose. If you're going to go to a job interview, be prepared, know what your skills are, what you bring to the table, what experience you bring to the table, why you're the best person for the job, and then negotiate salary.
That you really have to speak up for yourself. You have to do kind of your own internal marketing.
The key things that you can do is lay out in an employee handbook or a policy booklet or something like that what the actual employment laws are, which is that you can't discriminate for any sort of reason for a protected class.
To not only have parity, but to have equality.
So they picked this day in mid-April to have events all focused around equal pay to bring greater awareness to the fact that there is a pay gap.
We, as a society, especially in 2016, we think that we have changed a lot of gender roles, but that is false, and I think that we have a lot of work to do.